goes back across the ocean somewhere else. And then the next time someone buys it, that's the thing, people don't realize, they're also just trying it on. Like, the question is, how many times does that shirt need to be tried on before someone actually buys it?
Welcome to a special edition of the EVOLVE Voices podcast, Evolve at Shop Talk. And unfortunately for Vegas, those fascinating stories behind the people that power global commerce we talk about, they don't stay in Vegas. This is raw, unfiltered, in the moment. I'm Edilsa, a brand advisor, and the US host of EVOLVE Voices. Today's story is of resilience. Sylvia Ng's journey from tech leader to sustainability advocate as she tackles one of retail's most pressing issues, returns. After building her career at tech giants like Shopify, Google, eBay, Sylvia faced a personal challenge that forced her to slow down and reevaluate: breast cancer. But what followed was a new mission, creating a better way to manage returns for brands and in turn reduce emissions. Today, as the founder and CEO of ReturnBear, Sylvia is reshaping the whole logistics game and proving that inefficiencies, they are personal. For Sylvia, it's about more than just business. It's about creating a lasting impact. Because who runs the world? Girls.
Sylvia, I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Such a girl's girl. Reading through your story, I saw you supporting like so many founders on your own LinkedIn. And as I was looking through your story, it was everything about it. Just product tech background, ex-Shopify, now owning 2 companies, and so impressed. But one thing that stood out to me that just as I was looking through it was you were at the top of your game. Yeah.
Hopefully I still am.
Thank you. That is exactly what we should all be saying. Thank you for clarifying that. You are still at the top of the game. You were getting closer even to the top of your game at one point. You had your kids, and then out of nowhere, curveball, you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I just, like, when you received that call, like, how did that feel? I mean, was it just...
It was complete devastation. Like, I don't think I'll ever forget it.
Yeah.
I knew I was waiting for results.
Yeah.
And I was at work that day. I remember, like, I'll always remember this.
Yeah.
I walked out to the park nearby because I knew that potentially it would be bad results. And when I got it, I was sitting on the park bench all alone and just in complete meltdown and tears. It was, I almost felt bad actually, honestly, in retrospect, for the person who called me.
I mean, look at you.
Okay, but realistically, what happened was they said, you need to come back because we're not sure. It was just, that was when I kind of knew this probably is it, because you don't need the extra tests unless it probably isn't good. The actual results was announced to me by a doctor in person.
Okay.
And at that point, I had my husband with me.
Okay, good. Yeah,
so that was a little bit better. But I kind of, by the time I knew, I knew. So she had her box of Kleenex sitting in front of her, the oncologist.
All the cute.
And so when I saw that, I was just like, I don't think I need you to tell me now. It was a whole couple of weeks of meltdown.
You said you kind of knew, as Olivia Munn has been in the news of breast cancer awareness, how to detect it early. Like, how did you spot it on your own, or was this something that came up?
Kind of maybe TMI, but my husband actually found it.
Oh my gosh!
Because what had happened was my younger kid, I had been breastfeeding for the full year.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, actually throughout it all, I had problems because I had plug ducts.
Yeah.
Maybe
but that
feels the same. And when I saw my doctor even post the breastfeeding, just as a checkup, he's like, you have a lot of nodules here. And I was like, I'm still breastfeeding. Like, it's the end of breastfeeding. He's like, that's probably nothing. But a few months later, those nodules didn't go away. And then my husband's like, why is it still there? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't think about this. It's still there. Why not? Like, how long does it take for it to go away? So he's the one who actually encouraged me to go get checked out. And then that's how we found it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought anything about it, really.
Was it also you have so much going on. You just have a new baby, and you have your job that you're working through. Was that also part of that you just kept on going one day at a time, that you're like, okay, it's probably nothing huge? Is it you were so busy in your life?
Yeah, I would have never thought. But also I was at an age where it's not common. I mean, it's getting, unfortunately.
How old were you there at that?
35.
Oh my gosh, yes. So yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, it's getting more common at that age, but it's still uncommon enough that when I got diagnosed, the entire doctor team that was looking at me thought there must be something there that predisposed me, right? It must be genetic. It must be run in the family. There must be something else going on with me. But we did all the tests. I've gone through probably 4 rounds of genetic testing now. All of it has come back negative. Nobody in my family, even extended family, has ever had a cancer diagnosis, let alone a breast cancer one.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been confounding from that perspective, but I think there is so much more that we just don't know.
Yeah. One thing, it might seem unrelated, but I'm sure like as you were going through, were you surprised with your resilience after like finding out the news, or were you like a couple of weeks you were like, maybe I wasn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't feel like I went through that whole thing being very resilient.
Okay.
In retrospect, now that I'm here and I'm okay, then I feel like, okay, maybe I catastrophized the whole situation and didn't realize actually how strong I could be in retrospect. But throughout it all, I don't ever feel like I was being very strong. And even nowadays, because it never is really over. Like I always have this worry if something happens.
When does the ball drop?
More recently, I've been telling people this. I had a bad bout of pneumonia over the holidays, and the cough hasn't cleared. So even now, like I'm on 2 asthma puffers. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up in a coughing fit in the middle of this. Realistically,
we will pause it if you need it.
It's good I have the water. But yeah, like so. Then whenever I have something like that, my first thought obviously is, oh, geez. Is it back? Right? Did it spread somewhere? And that for me has been hard to kind of stop and reconcile. But at the same time, I don't want it to go away, because if it is something I do want to actually catch it
before. Was there a time after in this point when you're saying everything felt catastrophic? It is catastrophic when you're going through it. And was it when you were like, okay, I think I might be coming on the other side of it? Was there a point that you felt that, whether it's energetically or something happened in your life?
Mainly when I stopped freaking out about every bodily change. So when I was going through some of the treatments, my husband decided to send me off to Mexico for 3 days, just by myself, to relax, be away from the kids, be away from the work. And I remember that first night there, I found, for whatever reason, like basically a rash on my skin. And it was so, like, looking back, it is funny because it's so unreasonable, but I was convinced that the breast cancer had spread into skin cancer.
Oh my God.
Which really is not logical. Isn't. But yeah, I spent that first night in tears. And my husband's like, I sent you there to relax. This isn't like logical. I spent my time on Google.
You're alone with your thoughts.
Googling stuff. And if you Google enough, everything is cancer. Everything is cancer. So I think the turning point was when I started having like changes to myself and like physically, and not immediately jumping to, okay, this is cancer. That's been the big change.
I thought like what was so inspirational, everything is inspirational. Like, I mean, you're like dealing with this and you come out of it and then you want to make the planet better for everyone.
Oh, thanks.
It's like you feel so inspired on this new mission. Was it because of the breast cancer that you started on this mission of wanting to do something better? Did it start before?
I've always wanted to do something environmental, but my background, as you know, is all in tech and in software. So there aren't that many opportunities where within tech or software, very specifically, I can do something for the environment. So I've been on the lookout for that already. But I think the cancer piece also just gave me more perspective. It's true. Like they call cancer a gift wrapped in thorns. And I think in my case, it really was true. It gives you this perspective of, what will you do with the remaining days that you have here? Like for me, it seems when cancer hit anyway, it seemed very limited. And it does give me that drive to make sure that, every day I'm spending time on the things that I want to do. The environment is the thing.
You face mortality, you have this perspective about like what actual life means. You called it a gift wrapped thorn.
Wrapped in thorns.
Gift
Yeah.
wrapped in thorns.
Yeah.
Which makes so much sense that then you would find a company, Amadera, which is to gift cancer patients a gift box. How did that idea come into place with Amadera?
Yeah, it was actually going through it myself, but also then being in a community with a lot of other people going through the same thing or survivors. Yeah. I just realized that when it hits, and it's unfortunately hitting people more often now, a lot of people don't know what to do. Like your support system doesn't know what to do.
Right.
You know, when I first got it, my husband, he will tell you this, it's hard. Like, what does he say?
Yeah.
What does he do? Is it helpful for him to take the kids away, or do I actually want to spend time with the kids?
Oh my God, yeah.
And a lot of people now come to me as a survivor saying, okay, unfortunately I have another friend or family member who got diagnosed. What do I do to help? So because I was getting all those questions, I thought, okay, why don't I actually put together something that I think will actually be helpful? So the gift boxes are full of things that are things that, if you were going through cancer, I believe, things that I used, right, that I believe would be helpful. Yeah. Things like blankets, because a lot of people don't realize hospital settings are very cold. They're just
my
cold.
brother was in hospital settings his whole life as he suffers from cerebral palsy, so definitely know that.
So things like that, or like bath salts for spitz baths if you're going through chemotherapy, or green tea, which I found very helpful and is a health boost of sorts. Yeah. So I mean, not like crazy like medical products, but just things in everyday life that would be helpful.
Yeah. And it sounds like you took cues from the outside of like what were people looking for, what questions, which is a lot where the ideas come from. It's like what questions are you getting that are around you, and which I thought was probably the inspiration of the big elephant in the room is returns. You finding ReturnBear and now CEO, and I closely know returns from my time in retail. Yeah. I worked at Shopify, Gap, and Saks, and so many of the facts that you shared surprised me. But for you, what was it that made it click for you that this was something to tackle? Was it a personal horror story with returns? What inspired it?
It was actually, so I was at Shopify when we were looking at returns, and at that point we had bought a company called Return Magic to deal with returns. Yeah. And that's when I started looking. I really honestly haven't been close to returns up until then. And I wouldn't say I was working on returns either. It was a different part of the company. But because of that, I just started doing research and realizing that we do return so much stuff. And you know this. We're returning like almost $1 trillion worth of stuff in North America every year. Unfortunately, most of it goes to landfill. Yeah. Right? I think we buy a lot and we return a lot thinking that it probably goes back in the system, but not really. It's not helping. Mostly because the infrastructure isn't there. Yeah. Right? And a lot of times we're buying from overseas without realizing it, and also returning it without realizing it has to go back somewhere overseas. Right? So brands are shipping back and forth across borders without really needing it. And so long as we have the infrastructure, we can keep all of these cross-border returns local, send it to the next customer, and that alone is a good 40% emission savings on returns. And it's cheaper because if you're not shipping back and forth, the brands are saving money. Yeah. The consumers are happier because you're getting the refunds faster. Wow. Yeah. And it's more convenient for you to get the next thing that you want to buy. It'll be faster because the inventory wasn't stuck somewhere else. Yeah. So that's really it. It's just, I hate inefficiencies. Yeah. I found something that was super inefficient. I'm like, this is not rocket science. You should just get it done. Yeah. So that was the feeling around
I knew the $1 trillion problem. I knew the 30% return rate. But I think one thing that I was shocked, and it shouldn't have been, this e-commerce, the international transfer of product. Also, you talked about in one of your posts that a T-shirt that you ended up maybe returning takes maybe 5 to 10 times before it's actually kept, And so that funnel of being like, okay, there's another consumer at the end of the line that's getting my return product potentially, and it's back and forth. That was surprising to me. Is that what surprised you the most as you were digging into the returns data?
Yeah, well, actually so funny because a lot of people ask me, was I doing a return myself, and that's why I want to fix it. Yeah. Realistically, I never do returns.
You don't?
Because it's so inconvenient.
Oh my God, the ReturnBear who does, I love this.
It's because it's so inconvenient. Now that ReturnBear is there for the merchants who work with us, I would do a return. It's so much easier now. But before that, no. I'm like, I don't want to go and find package. I don't want to print out a label, and I don't want to have to go wait weeks for this refund, only to not know really whether I will, right? Because things get damaged in transit and all of this.
Right.
And then, God help me if I have to actually contact some customer support person.
Oh my God.
I'm so lazy that way. That's the convenience piece for the consumer. I don't think is as there as it should. But going back to the whole my shirt issue, what I've realized, and I think a lot of people don't know this, is that when we're doing a return, what we're really doing is the analogy I have.
Yeah, please.
Is when you go into a store and you're picking up something off the rack and you have multiple sizes because you don't know what size is going to fit. You go into the change room, you try it on, you put the things that don't fit all back on the rack.
Right.
That is all within a few feet, right? You're walking, it's in the store, there's no environmental impact really within the store. But except online, we're doing this across oceans. Wow. You bought the 3 shirts from somewhere in Europe or in Asia or whatever it happens to be. You tried it on in your house. You're going to return the 2 that didn't fit. Or maybe even all of them because none of it fit. It goes back across the ocean somewhere else.
It's not on your rack. Just
no,
putting it on.
And then the next time someone buys it, that's the thing people don't realize. They're also just trying it on. That same shirt is being tried on. Like, the question is, how many times does that shirt need to be tried on before someone actually buys it? Right? And when I do talk to a lot of e-commerce managers, they do realize that their generic, let's call it our 25 to 30% return rate in fashion, is understated because that's the return rate off of orders, not off of the actual shirt. When you look at that shirt itself, it probably has been returned 5 or 6 times. So the overall return rate in general on your overall inventory order basis is probably 50%.
Boggles the mind, but once I was looking at that, I was just like, this makes so much sense. But I think what you revealed to me was the ecosystem of it. It's like there's not just me involved. There's another customer. There's logistics. There's software. And so what I found is interesting is you're kind of manning a lot of the chain, as you call it, the software part, the logistics part, but you said you still need collaborators. And so I wanted to understand, what would that look like for you, an ideal? What is ReturnBear as you're solving one problem? What else needs to be solved?
Well, it's interesting because the return space, even when you say returns, it's so big, right? There are people who are doing the return initiation portal, right? So if you as a consumer want to go back, you mentioned you're working at the Gap, right? If you go at Gap and you want to say, I want to return this thing, there's usually a piece of software that says, what order was it? And which part of that order do you want it exchanged or refunded or store credit? And do you want to drop it off or do you want to mail it in? Or maybe it's a part of a loyalty program, for example, right? Like H&M.
I mean, we had returns perks all the time.
Right. So all of that software alone, it's its own industry, right? Then there's a whole industry about the transportation of getting that stuff back, right? So the return labels itself. And that's the traditional carriers, or we have trunking companies involved in all of that. Then there's the re-commerce side of it too, in terms of making sure that all the inventory that does come back, even if it's not ready for or good for primary resale, where can you do it? The recycling, the trove or treat, the secondary marketplaces. There's a whole industry within that. I can go on. There's multiple things.
But I actually like that you're listing all these things because I don't think people are aware of how large it is and how many. And so that's just boggles my mind that my one return involves. I would be curious to be how many touch points is it hitting, along the line.
Returns processing is its own thing. And there are some third-party logistics companies that only do that, right? And then when you look at it, it has to be category specific,
right?
Because if I'm so ReturnBear is in fashion, so we do we check for things like buttons and zippers, or if something is really wrinkled. It's all clothing related issues. If you're in electronics, it's a completely different thing. You need to know whether if it's a cell phone coming back, whether the cell phone turns on. Does it actually operate? That's a whole different type of testing to know that your cell phone that was returned is actually in good working order. So that's a whole other essentially industry, right? That presumably Best Buy does because they have the Geek Squad and they actually do refurbishment and they resell all the stuff that they've refurbished. That's a whole other thing on its own. So once you start looking at different categories too, it's different thing.
Are those the main collaborators, like cross-industry collaborators, or is there like something in the supply chain that you feel like is still missing that needs to be addressed?
Well, I think we have all the pieces, but putting it together, which is what ReturnBear is doing in terms of being a 4PL, right? Like we're sitting on top of all of it to make sure that any one merchant who wants it doesn't have to coordinate it themselves. There's, like, I haven't even mentioned the brick and mortar side of it. You being at the Gap, obviously returns come in store, right? So like the whole omni-channel experience of in-store returns versus the e-com returns is a whole other thing. And this, software players just or point of sale players that are just doing that also. You have some companies right now still to this day where when you buy online, you can't return in their store, right? Which is, again, lots of opportunity for us to be doing things.
It's so interesting you talked about 4PL. What makes it a 4PL? Just that a lot of companies are talking about 3PLs, and that's, I mean, I've worked with some small businesses right now where just that's the first thing they're considering. What's my 3PL? And so like now you're talking about 4PL. What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's basically a layer on top of the 3PLs, right? So if you as a brand are shopping around and looking to use different 3PLs, instead what you can do is go to a 4PL and say, you know what, this is the result that I want to make you accountable for it. Go do it.
Go do it.
I don't care. Like it's like I don't really need to know what's under the hood in terms of the 3PLs you might be using. But we are as ReturnBear accountable to all those returns. We have a risk-free policy that I think is quite unique in the industry, where we actually care about each unit that is returned. And if things go wrong while it's in our care, we will pay you out. And so the main thing is what it allows ReturnBear to be is actually quite asset light. So we're not like investing in a ton of infrastructure that's already literally there, right? So we are making use of excess capacity at our 3PL partners. So we do have 3PL partners who are helping us do the processing. We put in the software in there, but it's their space, their staff, and we're using their capacity that wouldn't have been used otherwise. Same with our return points. So we run physical return points the way Amazon does. And same thing, right? Realistically, inside of those brick and mortar stores, the staff there do have excess capacity, or the ones we work with, right? And they want the extra foot traffic, and so it's a win-win. We're using their staff, their space, and they get the extra foot traffic. But we didn't have to build that ourselves.
It makes so much sense to me, having something asset light as part of your data layer and data stack, having something that has ownership of the returns process, so to speak, right? How do you make retailers care? I mean, I'm like, that sits in my head as somebody being often on the marketing team, is our KPI was demand, which doesn't always include returns, right? And so like how it's such a blind sight for so many. How do you make them care?
Overlook. So I have a master's in predictive analytics. I started my kind of career doing a lot of data analysis. So for me, it is a lot of showing the brand the data. Because if you look at most of a brand's online reviews on Trustpilot or wherever it happens to be, I'm willing to bet you, vast majority of the 1 and 2 star ratings out of 5 are because of returns. It's because of refunds being slow. It's because it's stressful. It's because they don't want to buy again. And so once you realize that loyalty and your next purchase, essentially your ability to get lifetime value out of your customer acquisition cost is based on this. You should prioritize it, right? Like you as a marketer know this. It's so expensive. It's so expensive to get a net new customer. Why would you let that bleed out on the other end because of returns, right? And to begin with, the stats are there. 90% of us check the return policy before we buy.
100%,
right? And so if that isn't there to begin with, you're not going to get the sale. But then after the sale, it is. If there is something that they need to return and you're not there for them, they will never buy again. That stat is also there. But I love the reviews. Because once I show people the reviews, it's like, oh.
You let the customer tell you the problem, not you. I think that's the number one way to get things sold. It's just, hey, this is your customer who's complaining, and this is your loyalty on the line. So I love that tool that you're presenting. I also wonder if it's having people care is ownership of the problem. And,
that's a huge one.
Right?
I love that you're talking
and
about
I wanted
that.
to talk about that because you talked about how few people own returns within companies.
That was actually a big feature of our Manifest panel just a couple
of
months back. Because it was, we were sitting in a giant room, it's Manifest, and we went to the audience and said, who owns returns? You're all here, you care about returns. It literally was 2 people in this room of hundreds who put up their hand. Like I've looked at some of even the largest brands. When you look at Walmart, and when they hired their first VP of returns, it wasn't like that long ago.
Right.
As an industry, we don't have fixed ownership.
Yeah.
Is it the e-commerce person, or is it the operations person?
Yeah.
Is it customer support?
Yeah.
Because it's such a huge burden on customer support. In the end, a lot of times what we find is that because of the lack of ownership, we have to end up convincing the whole group. And finance is in there too, because the person who sees that the cost of the bottom line is so high ends up being the finance person.
The advanced model I saw at ShopOp, which I was really impressed with and had never seen it, was we had a returns swim lane. So at least it was an acknowledgement that returns hit every team: product, tech, marketing, finance.
Yes.
And so how did we do a task force on it? But I actually love what you say, somebody at Walmart having an actual person just on returns, because then you're managing that KPI. What would you say is better? Would you love to see a returns task force or an actual returns team?
Actually, I think it's really literally having a single neck to choke.
Exactly.
And for me, that could be I'm a little bit agnostic about who, because it does cross so many things. But it's, did the CEO of that company assign somebody who is actually in charge of making returns better? That's really the thing, and it doesn't necessarily need to mean that every year returns are a top 3 priority. I don't think that's realistic. But it's having somebody who owns that area so that regularly there's attention to it and things improve. And that I think we can do so much better as an industry, right? Because otherwise it requires you all the time to let's pull together a task force. That's not a light thing, right? And even within the task force, who has say? Who actually is has the decision making power? In the end, I find that even when we work with task forces, it's tricky. Right. Because people do come to the table with wanting different things.
The single throat to choke. It just makes life easy. And I think as you talked about it, you talked about stats at the beginning, and you listed a litany of stats, which is one, emission savings, the size of the problem. We talked about back and forth. The 50% return rate all in, does that shock retailers when they hear it? Because I feel like if I was them, that would be my one thing. I'd be like, this needs to be a priority. Do you find that is this shocking enough, or do they still need more context?
I think it has its maybe surprising shock value, but also at the same time, I don't know if it changes the priorities.
Okay, that's interesting.
If that makes sense, because is that necessarily a bigger problem than you getting more sales still? Right? If I use my analogy better about the in-store piece, you have now, I'm telling you that you have a ton of people coming in and trying stuff out and putting it back on the rack. And because you're putting back on the rack, it's poor experience for them and it's expensive. Great, but they, in their minds, a lot of people still think, well, really, I just need more people coming into the store. Right? That's where, if I have a ton more people coming to the store, does it really matter that they're having these issues back there? Someone's going to buy. It still goes back to, in the end, for me, the experience review data. Right? It's the fact that you're actually, of the 100 people that you brought in, because that trying it on experience is so painful, that they're leaving your store immediately.
So it's the NPS.
Yes.
It's retention rate. It's the new customer acquisition rate. Your ability to drive conversion, and that's where kind of laddering it back to that KPI is what sells people at the end. It makes a lot of sense. Just speaking their language.
Because otherwise, a lot of people think, oh, it's just a fact of life, or I'm actually serving them well if I let them try on. So I'm actually doing the right thing by letting them try on. 50% might not be bad from that light, but it's just you knowing that. Every time someone's trying on, they're unhappy because not because of the product, but the experience itself of trying on was bad.
Right.
You're paying through the roof for that try on, and then at the end, still losing them. They went in your store and now left. That's just what's going on.
That's incredible. I am still shocked that you as a product tech person were able to thrive among these supply chain gurus. Like, how did it feel like you had the credentials, obviously, once you list Shopify and once you list the companies you were at before, but how did it feel? Did you feel like you belonged when you first stepped in that room?
I'm not sure I still feel like
yeah.
But realistically, I don't know if I ever felt like I belonged.
I love that. None of us do, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. But also, like, my kind of Asian upbringing, one, it's like I value the humility to begin with, right? So far be it for me to come and say, hey, I'm here and I belong here, I'm great. That's really not me. But especially in logistics, because I have such a background in product and tech that I do have a certain comfort in that, right? It's like I have, my 20 years of experience there. In logistics, I only have 2. It feels very different to me because I just don't have that depth of experience there. So I will say that as imposter syndrome goes, that is where my day-to-day imposter syndrome is, right? I have so much to learn still. There are still terms in logistics that I'm learning on a daily basis. When I first hired in my head of ops, I was just saying, let's just ship things back and forth. And he's like, let's line hauling. I'm like, does it matter? Aren't you just shipping things? What is line hauling? But there's a whole, different language. And with that language, you're doing culture. And if you don't understand that culture, it is very actually hard to develop relationships, operate, make partnerships. Really.
I wonder, though, if part of it is like, you are versed at hard-fought wins. So being in those rooms, maybe you don't feel like you belong. But you feel like you can hustle for it and be. One part of your story that really stood out was your grandmother. You talked about how she used to trek 10,000 K to just get a bit of rice. And empathize with that because my mother used to carry water on her head in Dominican Republic. She'd go to the river, get water, go back home, and it was miles. And that's just one generation. And I'm just like, my mom used to do that. And do you think it's that humility that kind of fine-tunes you in the room that, like, okay, like, something is not enough, I can still push through?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's growth mindset. It's just a moment in time that it's like this now. And honestly, if I withdrew myself, then I would actually never end up really belonging. You know what I mean? So for me, it's a must to kind of go through this. It's the journey. And it's actually a valuable journey to be going through all of that.
How does that materialize? Is it you want that extra meeting? You get that extra meeting, or is it?
I want that environmental impact, right? I can't get to that environmental impact without going through all of this.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
But also have other inspiration stories of there's so many entrepreneurs who have been successful doing things that for them was the first time. Right? Like even Elon Musk building SpaceX was the first time for him. He never did anything in that space before. And if you look at a lot of the entrepreneurs out there, I don't know, Sergey and Larry, when they founded Google, there was obviously no other search, the search engines were just getting started. So it's not like they had a whole bunch of bases to go off of. A lot of us are, as entrepreneurs, just trying something new.
It makes me think of where do we start? When you started this company, you were getting in uncomfortable rooms. Is it finding that decision maker, booking that meeting? How did you make it happen? It's just.
Some of it is logic and convincing people with my data. But other parts is just participating and helping people. Bernadette Hunter, my CRO at ReturnBear, loves to talk about how sales for her is actually just about giving. It's when we try to see if ReturnBear is a fit for any one merchant, we're not really there to pitch. We're there to see, based on what you have, does ReturnBear make sense? And if we know that some partner of ours or somebody else in the ecosystem is better, we totally recommend that first. Right? It's actually helping
out for the good.
We're trying to solve the problem on behalf of merchants, and if we're not the right ones, because like I said, the industry is so broad and there's so many different problems. It's about finding the right one.
It creates a lot of trust that way anyway. People just don't, it sounds like counterintuitive, but if you're actually looking out for the company, the planet, that itself, that's your North Star. It creates a lot of trust as you go through. Before we wrap up, there's a lot of stuff that stood out to me, but you read an innovator pitch not too long ago. You brought your sons.
Yes.
And this is a very big trend for you. How did you think?
I wish I could have brought them here, but it was too much.
Yeah. How did you think of that? Was it like, what inspired that idea?
I can go on about this
Yeah.
for a while too,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like our education systems are where they need to be. Like when I think about, and I think a lot of us do worry about this when we think about AI. We don't know how to prepare our kids for whatever future they're about to face, realistically. So I keep on thinking the best way I can prepare them is actually get them more education outside of just what school is giving them. And a lot of it happens to be what I'm already doing in work, right? Why not go and see other entrepreneurs do their pitches? You know, and then they know what public speaking is meant for. Like, why are they even learning public speaking?
The practical application.
Yeah, practical, and then also seeing it and getting inspired by others who, you know, saw a problem and wanted to fix it. And it's not just their day-to-day, you know, I'm learning some French words in French class. And I memorized these things.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, as a math geek, I was still like, did I need to learn all the math that I did? It was like,
Yeah, the critical thinking I do find is super valuable. So it's not to say I don't think that school is worthwhile, but I do feel like we're going to be doing so much more with it. And involving them with others.
Was there an aha moment, like something that they maybe like you brought them and they made you see something in a different way?
It's so funny because I think the kids, because they don't understand a lot of the jargon of the industry, when I ask them, if I take them to, you know, pitch contests or whatever, and ask them who do you think was best, it's funny, without knowing anything in the industry, they end up usually picking the ones that I would say, I thought was the best pitch.
Really? What do they notice about it? Is it the delivery?
Yeah, the delivery, but I think some things, it really is true. If your pitch cannot be understood by an 11-year-old, you've missed the mark.
Right.
So I actually think that they're great, ones for me to learn from. Right? Even if I'm pitching ReturnBear, it's like, did you understand that? Because if you didn't, then who knows, the next VC I'm pitching probably might not either, you know? Because you shouldn't have so much jargon. Like, I think a lot of us who are trying to be more professional in some ways end up hurting ourselves because we didn't make it simple enough.
Simplicity is key.
Yeah, so having them has definitely taught me things.
I love that. I mean, I would have loved having that. My mom did a great job. Like, she would only speak to me in Spanish growing up, and then I would read all my books in Spanish as well. And like, I always treasured that time to just be out there doing things with her as much as I could. But it's this next level of like actually being taken to work and seeing like, hey, this is what my mom does, and then and being inspired by the application of it is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and ReturnBear?
On LinkedIn mostly.
Yes.
Because I am a mom and introverted, I actually try to stay away from social media.
Good. It's toxic.
So, I mean, if you find my account on Twitter or on Instagram or something like that, you will find, unfortunately, I'm not very active.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you're working on ReturnBear 24/7. Your whole team is here at Shop Talk. Right? I'm so excited that I got to meet you, Sylvia. Excited for ReturnBear to evolve and for people to learn more about just this huge issue that I feel we all know, but I don't think we understand the ecosystem of it. So excited for them to learn about it.
Oh, thanks for featuring it.
Now make sure you subscribe to EVOLVE Voices, this leading and incredible project where our ambassadors are interviewing amazing professionals from all over the world so they can share their perspective and benefit you with their perspective, their knowledge, and you can understand what's happening in the different markets. EVOLVE Voices is a project part of the EVOLVE Commerce Club, the #1 and leading community where we connect international professionals in the world of commerce. We are now connecting professionals in more than 40 markets, and every week we invite an expert to share their perspective and their knowledge. So if you'd like to know more, you can always look at the comments. We have a link there so you can request your application and stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching. All the best. Ciao.